Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is May the 1st, 2025. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. It's the first of the month. Overall, work was solid. It was good. Post work, we of course did the gym. Gym was also good. Really, no big pains, no major aches, so we love that. We'll take that as a W. And post the gym, we are now here podcasting. So yeah, everything is good. Everything is irie. Let's go ahead and do our newsy roll call, and let's get into some news. Hopefully, it sounds good. Yeah, maybe. Our first one, Stephanie Renee, Edward Haas, Mama Bear, Aaron Walden, and then of course we have our silent benefactors, if you will. Just thank you so much for your support. It really does mean a lot. It really does put a smile on my face. It warms my heart. Thank you. Let's go ahead and do our startup and get into some news. Our first story comes from Politico. Trump's use of Alien Enemies Act for swift deportations is illegal. Trump-appointed judge rules. President Donald Trump's invocation of a wartime power to summarily deport Venezuelan nationals to El Salvador was unlawful. A federal judge ruled Thursday, blocking the administration from further deportations under the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. The decision from U.S. District Judge Fernando Rodriguez Jr., a Trump appointee, is the latest sharp rebuke to one of Trump's most aggressive and high-profile efforts to quickly carry out deportations with little or no due process. Rodriguez said Trump had improperly invoked the law, which gives the president the power to quickly expel nationals of invading countries, to target alleged members of a Venezuelan gang, Tren de Aragua. I don't know why I can't pronounce that. The Alien Enemies Act applies only when the country is facing an armed, organized attack, Rodriguez ruled. Trump's claims about Tren de Aragua activities in the United States fall short of that bar, the judge added. Now, I do think this is relevant. I think the most relevant part of this is that this is a Trump-appointed judge who is saying this. But, this has already gone all the way up to the Supreme Court, and it seems that more or less the Trump administration has not been responsive to it. They've kind of just shrugged it off, and they're like, okay, whatever, maybe. But, we'll see. Like I said, in some ways this feels relevant in that regard. In other ways, it's just like, is this going to make any changes? Is this going to make them kind of reverse course in any kind of way? Probably not. But definitely felt worth updating, just kind of bringing it to attention. Let's go ahead and move on, though, to our next story. Also Trump-related. We're still in the Trump-verse. From ABC News. Trump replacing Waltz as National Security Advisor. Rubio takes role for now. In the first cabinet shuffle of his second term, President Donald Trump on Thursday announced he's nominating Michael Waltz to be U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, while Secretary of State Marco Rubio will serve as interim National Security Advisor while keeping his current role as well. I'm pleased to announce that I will be nominating Mike Waltz to be the next United States Ambassador to the United Nations, Trump wrote on his conservative social media platform. From his time in uniform on the battlefield, in Congress, and as my national security advisor, Mike Waltz has worked hard to put our nation's interests first. I know he will do the same in his new role. Let's see. Sources had told ABC News earlier Thursday that Waltz was expected to leave his post as national security advisor. The move came as President Trump has been increasingly frustrated by Waltz after he came under intense scrutiny for inadvertently adding a reporter to a Signal chat with top Trump officials discussing a U.S. military strike on Houthi rebels in Yemen. Waltz responded to Trump's announcement on X, writing, "I am deeply honored to continue my service to President Trump and our great nation. UN ambassador nominees require state approval, and Waltz would need to face what could be uncomfortable questions at confirmation hearings." So he has to go through this whole shit again, pretty much because he fucked up on that Signal chat shit. Of course, Hegseth, he's been caught 2 times, over the same incident, but having like 2 Signal chats up about this bullshit. He's fine so far, as we know. Trump really likes this guy. But Waltz, and also I believe he had another guy that was like an assistant to him, Waltz did. I think his last name is Wong. Don't quote me on that. But I think he also is either getting fired or shuffled, if you will. Essentially this is all from that incident of Waltz adding a journalist from The Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg, and had him in this whole chat where they're talking about this shit. And it's like, bro, like this shouldn't even be happening here. And then 2, you should have invited this guy to the party. This is all your fault, really. Like for, I think the Trump administration, the way they view it, Trump specifically, is like, why did you have this guy in here? So I think in some ways he wants to save face by not firing him. This could be the part of a slow walk, kind of putting him out to pasture. Or it's just like, hey, let's take him off of national security stuff since he just can't seem to stop using Signal chat, because they caught him recently, actually, I think at a cabinet meeting using it. He just can't stop using it. They're not going to stop doing that. So it's like, okay, let's just shift roles maybe. Put him in a different department. You love that. You love that move, It's very HR of Donald Trump to do that, make that move instead of rolling ahead. But honestly, at this point, I just think you should, right? Like this dude seems like dead weight. You could just get a fucking another meathead. But maybe that is a part of the allure with Trump, right? That if you are not actively defying him, you are a loyal guy, then there is a place for you, right? As long as you don't fuck up too bad. But I don't know. I would think this is a fuck up kind of, too far, right? But once again, who knows? Maybe this is a part of my initial idea, my theory, that he is getting, slowly, walk the plank out of here instead of just take him out back and bam. I don't know. We'll see. Time's going to tell. Anyway, let's move on to our next story from the BBC. Teen hazing suspects surrender after being given 48-hour deadline. 11 New York State high school athletes accused of a hazing prank where they allegedly brandished a gun and traumatized their lacrosse teammates have turned themselves in, authorities said on Wednesday. The student athletes at West Hill High School in Syracuse allegedly drove a group of younger players to the woods where one of the victims had a pillowcase put over his head and was put in the boot of a car, which is a trunk of a car. At a news conference on Tuesday, Onondaga County District Attorney Bill Fitzpatrick had ordered the players to turn themselves in within 48 hours or risk being prosecuted as adults. District Attorney Fitzpatrick described the incident as way beyond hazing. "I cannot really adequately express to this community the level of stupidity and lack of judgment involved in this case," Fitzpatrick said. Authorities said that on April 24th, at least 5 victims were offered a ride at a lacrosse game and were taken to nearby woods after the driver of the vehicle pretended to be lost. At some point, by prearrangement, people came out of the woods all dressed in black. They were armed with what appeared to be at least one handgun and at least one knife, Fitzpatrick told reporters. "I've seen the videotape of what happened to this young man. It is not a rite of passage," he said, referring to the student who had the pillowcase put over his head. There were no reports of physical injuries, but the younger students have been traumatized by the experience, authorities said. "I'm not trying to sissify American youth," Fitzpatrick said. "If you want to welcome someone onto your team and toughen them up, maybe an extra hour of practice might be appropriate, as opposed to taking someone at gunpoint, stuffing them in the back of a car, and traumatizing them for the rest of his life." The district attorney said the students would face misdemeanor charges of unlawful imprisonment and would be released to the custody of their parents if they turned themselves in voluntarily. Now, none of the names of the suspected victims have been released by the police. But I'd kind of heard tricklings of the story, and I was like, Oh, damn, that's pretty fucking grim. But this isn't our first time, talking about a hazing situation on this podcast. I really think it's just such a stupid, juvenile fucking thing to do. But I do think it's somehow baked, and maybe it's not like an international thing. Maybe this is more of an American thing. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure on that. But it just seems stupid. It just seems so dumb. And even adding this whole thing about like, well, maybe you could just do an extra hour of practice or something like that. Like, why? Why do you need to do that? Like, I feel like you get immersed into a team by just participating and giving it your all. You're at practice, you're playing the games, you're doing the shit. You will get closer to these people. You know what I mean? Those are the trenches for you. You don't have to like abuse someone. You don't have to traumatize someone. You know what I mean? But hey, maybe I'm just a sissified American. Maybe that's me. You know what I mean? I did football practice and I was done with that shit. I was like, no, thank you. That's cool. I didn't even get a chance to get hazed, dog. But hey, that's me. Look at me now. Now I'm a podcaster. But no, I just think this shit is fucked. I think it's silly. That being said, I'm not saying like bury these kids under the jail. Like, granted, what was the brainstorming there though? Think of it. Can we go there? Can we be a fly on that wall where it's like, oh man, just be so crazy. We come out dressed in black, bro, and then I whip out the fucking toolie, bro. You whip off the knife, bro. Allegedly, like, oh man, it's gonna be a fucking movie. They're gonna piss themselves, man. Like, what is that accomplishing? What is that doing? Like that doesn't seem good. It doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem like it's gonna actually do anything productive for the team. That doesn't seem like good bonding, if you ask me. But hey, it is what it is. I'll keep you posted if I hear anything more there. Let's go ahead and move on, though, to our last story. We got to bread up. But before we bread up, let's go ahead and close it down with our last break. Our last story comes from People. Bread recalled over glass fragments as FDA warns consumption could cause adverse health consequences. Yeah, like, I don't know. Eating glass would be pretty fucking bad for you. Sorry. Bread and rolls that are sold in 6 states have been recalled over glass fragments. In a recall report issued earlier this month, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, said 3 products that are part of Upper Crust Bakery LP were recalled due to glass fragment found on top of bread. The bread types include Ancient Grains hoagie roll, multigrain sourdough, sounds yummy, and whole grain multigrain. In total, the FDA said 818 cases of the product are suspected of containing glass fragments, including 699 cases of the company's 18-ounce sourdough loaf, which is packaged in corrugated paper cartons and is sold frozen. 89 cases of the hoagie rolls were recalled and 30 of the whole grain multi-loaf. Boy. The loaves and rolls were sold in Pennsylvania, California, Connecticut, Delaware, and drumroll please, good old Ohio. O-H-I-O. They appear to be made by Crest Hill Bakery in Maryland. It's a big oopsie. Let's see. The Maryland-based bakery first notified the FDA on April 12th per the recall report. The agency added that the recall was voluntary and initiated by the company. I try to give points for companies that do this. I've listened to enough fucked up corporate scam concealment stories where they drag their heels on having to do this and they almost want to chalk it up as breakage or something. So I always appreciate a company that at least says, hey, we fucked up. Immediately when we realized that they reference a vigilant team member discovered a small glass fragment on top of a piece of seeded bread. And they said, okay, well, we got to make sure that we deal with this. And so they got on it. So that's good. Kudos for that. But that's just a crazy situation. now we got to add glass to the elements, to the materials that have been in our food at this point that we've covered on this podcast. That's crazy. As if the fucking microplastics weren't enough. As if the steel and the wood chips. Now we got glass they got to potentially worry about. It could be on your ass, in your ass. Oh, that would be terrible. I mean, obviously, the consequences could be dire if you ingested this. So obviously, do the thing. You throw it out. You take it back to where you got it. Get your little refund, or exchange, whatever. But one more thing I wanted to talk about, because I tend to mention this more and more about like the class and how I feel about it. The recall was given a Class 1 recall classification by the FDA. The FDA uses classifications 1, 2, or 3 to indicate the degree of health hazard of the recalled product. A Class 2 recall is defined as a situation in which use or exposure to a volatile product may cause temporary or medically reversible adverse health consequences, or where the probability of serious health consequences is remote. The agency says that ingesting glass fragments can cause injury to the consumer. These injuries may include damage to teeth, laceration of the mouth and throat, or perforation of the intestine. The way they say it just so coolly, and the fact that this is attached to a Class 1 makes me go, man, that just seems like it should be like higher. Whatever. It just is what it is. I'm glad they're on it, and there haven't been any kind of reported deaths or anything like that. But yeah, that is where we will leave it for today. If you'd like to help out, support the effort, become a newsie so that you can be on the roll call, the next one next month. Patreon.com/Isaiah News. Free ways to hit me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials. Subscribe to the YouTube. Follow on TikTok. Follow on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Whatever you're listening on, that works. Leave a like. Leave a comment on the episode. Sharing is caring. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.